Hey guys, it's Kate, and in this video I will share with you a tutorial on how to paint this beautiful seascape with soft pastels. The reference photo that I'm using is from Pixabay, and you can find it there. It's a royalty-free reference photo, so you can use it for your own artwork as well. And I will be using soft pastels and Clairefontaine Pastelmat. You can also find the full tutorial on my Patreon channel with a voiceover and in real time. So let's begin. First thing I do is I'm blocking in the lightest part of my clouds. I'm not using white. I tend to avoid using white in my paintings. Instead, I'm using a very pale yellow. The next thing I do is I add the mid-tone value to my clouds, and they are gray. So I'm using just a neutral gray and layering everywhere where the biggest mass of the clouds is. In this particular reference photo, there are clouds that are very far away in the distance and a bigger mass of clouds that is closer. So I'm working only on that for now. Then I'm taking a darker gray and I'm mapping in the areas that are going to be darker. And again, I'm looking at the reference photo and trying to put the values according to what I see. I'm rubbing everything in just to make sure that I can layer next layers of my pastels over the existing ones. In the reference photo, these clouds, they have quite sharp edges, and now I'm adding also the darker blue-gray to the darkest parts of my clouds. In the painting, I wanted to make these clouds softer on purpose so that the wave that is in front is going to stand out more, so it's going to be more sharp. The sky will not be taking away anything from the wave, will not be attracting too much attention, because in the clouds there is quite a big contrast in values, and that already kind of redirects the viewer's eyes. So what I'm doing next is I'm adding a slightly darker yellow, and I am outlining the silhouette of my clouds. So basically I'm looking at my reference photo and I'm seeing where these clouds part slightly and adding the value to those particular places. Next I am adding, this is white, with the white I am adding just a bit of white in between these yellow spots, just to create these kind of shapes of clouds, so they do not seem like a one whole blob. I take another gray and I am testing my grays. This is my board that I tape my paintings to, and I'm testing it on the board just to see if it's the color that I actually need. And with this light gray, I am again outlining the clouds. And with a purplish gray, I'm passing over the areas that are the darkest in the clouds. And again, I'm making horizontal strokes just to create this illusion of clouds being flat, kind of lying flat on the sky. Next, I am covering my sky that is in between this big cloud shape and between the sea with a greenish gray. And with a color shaper, I'm measuring my horizon line just to make sure that it is straight. I'm rubbing in my greenish gray, and then with the same purplish dark gray, I am outlining the clouds because I lost a bit the contour of the clouds that kind of stands out on the sky. Now with the yellow that I used for my clouds, the very pale yellow, I am creating these shapes of the clouds that are in the very far distance. And also the horizon. I want the horizon to kind of blend into the sky very slightly, and then have a sharp line of the sea underneath. So with the dark blue, I am going, it's kind of almost greenish blue. I am going over the horizon line, and that is going to be the darkest part of my seascape, not counting the part under the waves that are created by the cast shadow. Then with the light value, the same one that I used for the clouds, I am outlining my waves. So this is going to be the part of the wave that has the foam on it, and it's only the very top of the wave, because in the reference photo I see that only the top of the wave catches the most light. The rest of the foam is quite dark. And then with this turquoise, I love this color. It's so beautiful. I actually chose the photo because it had this light shining through the wave that made it this beautiful turquoise color. And I am trying to keep all of my sea. In the reference photo, it's more blue, but I'm trying to keep my sea more turquoisey, so I really like this color. So use your artistic license and select the colors that you prefer looking at. And here you can see I'm blocking in the main values, so my lights and my darks. And then I'm also blending it in with a lighter blue between the turquoise and the very dark blue. And the very bottom, I am mapping it in with gray, and then over the top I layer some lighter gray, because that part of the sea is closer to the viewer and it looks almost gray to me. So now I'm rubbing everything in, and it doesn't matter if I smear a bit of blue onto my lightest yellowish white. I'm not worried if it gets contaminated by a bit of blue, because I will still be layering over the top of it, and then I will be layering my lightest values over the top as well. So now I'm creating these short strokes to create a sense of motion on the surface of the sea, and I'm rubbing those in just to soften them out a bit. And then I'm adding also different colors. So I'm looking at the reference that I have, and I'm adding the darker colors and the lighter colors on top, just to create a kind of sense of moving sea. Also in the distance I can see that there are some waves that are lighter, and I want to show that in my painting as well. But they are very far away and they are not as sharply white as the closer waves are. Now with the blue I am outlining or mapping in the area where the shadow of the foam is going to be. Pay close attention when you're painting seascapes that you have your shadows and your lightest values placed correctly. The foam, yes, it is white, but if it's in a shadow, so in this case the sun is shining from behind the wave, then the foam being in the shadow is going to have an almost grayish look to it. So I didn't want to put straight gray on, so I put my light blue first, and then I covered it with different tones of gray, just to create that sense of the shadow, because otherwise my light shining through the wave would not look as intense, would not look as strong. The next thing I do, I'm adding more blue on under the wave, and this is going to be the cast shadow, so it's a very dark blue, and then I will be using very few of black. I'm mixing colors on the paper so as to create the value that I need and the color that I want. And now I'm using the black just to intensify the darkness, because I don't have the blue that is dark enough. I know that there is a set by Sennelier, the darkest pastels that you actually can get, but I still haven't got that one, so it's on my wish list. And as soon as I get that one, then I will let you know how it is, because I've been looking at it for a long time now, and I really lack these very dark colors in my collection. So I'm rubbing everything in very good at this moment. Now I see that in the wave there are these kind of strokes that go through the wave that are a lot lighter, and this is what I'm doing with my turquoisey pastel. I am creating these strokes in the direction that I see them on the reference photo. If you look closely at the waves, they very often have these kind of streaks of lighter color through them, especially on the parts where the light kind of hits them. I'm adding a darker turquoise color just to make those streaks stand out a bit more. Creating a bit of movement on the surface of the sea under the second wave that's further up in the distance. And then I'm adding a darker grayish blue, the same one that I used in the sky. I'm adding it to my wave just to create a stronger shadow on it. The thing with shadows and lights is that you cannot create a shape if you don't have convincing shadows and you don't have convincing strong lights. If I were to create my wave slightly lighter even, then my lights on top of the very surface of the wave, the one that catches the most light, would not look as strong, and the shape would not be perceived as strongly as it is if I'm putting these dark values in. So it's very important in anything that you paint, it's very important to pay attention to how dark the values and how light the values are. Now I'm starting to create the foam pattern under the wave, and as it's casting a shadow, as it's backlit and it's casting a shadow under itself, then I'm using grays and blues to create the foam pattern right under the wave in the shadow, and then I'm using my yellowish white to create the foam pattern that is already hit by the light. So you can see this creates an appearance of the wave kind of hanging over the surface of the water and dropping its shadow onto the surface of the water, because if I were to use the same light value to create the foam under the wave, it would lose all the illusion of the shape. Now I am working on the top of the crest of this wave, the very part where it catches the light, and again I'm using my yellowish white. I'm doing the same thing for the second wave as well. Now I'm using different values and creating this appearance of the foam. So I want it to be quite soft, but at the same time I wanted to kind of have a shape, because if you look closely to the shape of the foam on the reference photo, it clearly has these sections. So there are shadows in between that are darker, in between these sections that are darker, and then there are parts that are lighter, even though the wave is backlit and the majority, the biggest part of the foam is in the shadow itself. Also, I'm adding the streaks of the lighter part of the wave with a lighter pastel. It's actually a Conte stick, and it allows me to create these sharper and thinner marks, because this is quite a small painting. It's only 16 by 24, I think, centimeters big. With a Conte stick, it's a lot easier to create a very, very thin line. Also, you can use a pencil as well, so if you don't have Conte sticks, pencils are very good, or a very sharp edge of a harder pastel will work perfectly fine as well. So I'm strengthening a bit more the shadows, because I want those shadows to really be dark enough for my lightest lights to stand out on them. I'm scraping off the bits of pastel with my white and also a bit of blue, just to create that appearance of splashing water. So when you see the waves, they have these splashes of water flying everywhere, and just by scraping the pastel with your fingernail and then pressing it into the paper using, for example, a tracing paper sheet or a sleeve for the documents, you can create this very cool effect, and it's not going to drop off of the paper, it's going to kind of press into the paper. So there, my wave is all complete, and now the part that I love very much is taking off the tape. Also, be careful when you're taking off the tape, try to take it off kind of away from your painting, because otherwise the dust that is on the tape can drop onto your painting that is already ready. So there it is, this is our wave. As I said, you can find the full tutorial with a voiceover in real time on my Patreon channel. I do tutorials there, new tutorials every month, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and it was useful. Don't forget to like it if you did, and also subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this one, and also other artsy tips and vlog videos. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye!